E-L-O-E-J, a little aloha in our day. Spread a little aloha around the world. At breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Poncho Man. Welcome, everybody, back to Breakfast with Bob, not quite Kona edition. My name is Bob Babbitt, and we are brought to you by Hoka One One Master Spas, Clash USA, UCAN Hyper Ice Premium Plus Sports, Form Smart Swim Goggles, and of course, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. In 2021, we sent out 3,038 grants totaling $5.1 million to keep challenged athletes in the game of life through sport. Our next guest, somebody who totally understands that. She just guided an athlete to fourth place in the Paralympics. Nikki Bartlett joins us. Nikki, how the heck are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Bob. Thanks. How are you?
I am spectacular. So I'm looking at the results of the paratriathlon at the Paralympics. Yeah. And you guys were 2 seconds off the podium. Oh my God, that must have been an amazing race.
Yeah, it was a great race. Absolutely loved it. Literally had the most fun out there in Tokyo, and they put on such a fantastic event in what can only be really difficult times for them. And yeah, just absolutely loved it. And I've kind of come away thinking, I want to go to Paris. So that's how much I enjoyed my time there.
So talk a little bit about Alison Peasgood, because I looked at her background and she sounded like this last couple of years have been really horrific. She had a liver virus in 2019, crashed her bike in 2020. She was on crutches like 3 weeks before the Paralympic paratriathlon. It was a touch and go, her even getting to the starting line.
Yeah, it was very touch and go. And there was, conversations of us traveling home once we'd been to the holding camp. So it was kind of everyone saw fourth place, 2 seconds off bronze. And I was like, honestly, you do not know what went on behind closed doors kind of thing. It was like felt like a bit of a miracle to be on the start line. I'm just so happy to be there. So yeah, it's been a really difficult 2 years for her. A lot of challenges, but yeah, overcome them and got on the start line and had a great race.
So talk a little bit about when you first met Alison and just getting involved in the whole Paralympic side of things. How did that impact you? Just maybe, I'm guessing you didn't have a lot of exposure to para athletes before this, seeing what Alison goes through on a daily basis and just getting a sense of how important sport is for an athlete like Alison. What did you come away with?
Yeah, so I got into guiding process. They put on an initiative called Guides for Gold. Yes. And my other half, Bex, she's lead coach for the British para team. So kind of had my eyes opened when we moved to Loughborough and kind of saw what the power program was about. And the British team are just fantastic. Literally couldn't pick a better team to be a part of. And I just wanted to get involved and kind of do anything to help someone achieve their dreams. And it's been some of the best experiences I'll ever go through in my life. And yeah, like Paralympics is kind of like just kind of the pinnacle of their career. And being involved in that process was just absolutely amazing. And yeah, to be involved and to kind of be a part of such a successful British triathlon team across Olympic and para. And yeah, it's just been absolutely fantastic. And I train with the para squad daily. So I know how hard they work and the level of kind of they've raised the British triathlon, every single category, just as moving on the sport rapidly. And yeah, like since being involved in the sport and the program for the last 2 years, the level of competition just kind of increasing pretty significantly. And that's because I believe British triathlon across all the classes are pushing the sport on.
What's fascinating to me is if you're just a regular age group athlete and you start thinking about 111 for a sprint triathlon, that is hauling ass. I mean, that is really flying. And here you're with somebody who's visually impaired. You're on a tandem. What is the scare? I've actually guided a buddy of mine named Tom Sullivan on in short triathlons back in the day. And what was fascinating to me is I was never more worn out than after a sprint triathlon, because your senses are on overload. You're thinking about tree limbs. You're thinking about every crack in the road because you are their eyes. You are everything for the person you're guiding. How stressful did you find this?
I always say the mental side of it, just like the guiding side, the communication is what I'm most tired out after a race, because like physically I'm not actually that tired. Like after Tokyo, after the race, I went and did a 40-minute swim and a 2-hour run. Like I'm not physically that tired because my main impact is the bike, and the swim and the run are pretty chilled. But it's actually I was just emotionally and mentally drained after each race, because you have to, every single little bit of communication, from racking the bike in the morning, kind of getting in the water, and you just got to think of everything. Like you didn't just jump in, then you go. You kind of jump in. I kind of grab Alison's arm and guide her with, the general direction we're going to be swimming in. And there's communication. Like this is the bit I struggled with when I first started, is that like when we turn the buoy, I kind of smack her around the head so she knows we're turning, because she can't see the buoy. And when I started, I was like, little tap. And she's like, no, you got to smack me. And I was like, let me give you like concussion here. But yeah, like, there's so much communication what goes on. Like you can't just, and like getting on the tandem, flying, dismounting on the tandem. And Tokyo was quite a technical run. So there's a lot of constant chat on the course of kind of, just slight inclines, going around corners, uneven surfaces, grabbing water, because we were allowed to have a kind of special needs, I guess, from our coaches on the course. And it was actually, they were positioned on her side. So we had to communicate, and that I had to come around, grab the bottle, come back through, pass it through, because there's lead zones the guides can have. There's not many, but that was one of them, thankfully, so I could come across and grab the fluid. But there's loads of stuff you don't even think about, like taking the tether off, and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot going on. So yeah, I feel almost emotionally drained as much as I do an hour race than my kind of 4-hour, 5-hour, 70.3.
Just watching the live stream of it, the thing that always hits me is the little barricades and those little feet that stick out on the bottom of the barricades. And I was like, oh my God, don't trip on those, because it's like you've got to stay between your athlete and those, but then you're taking turns and then they're on both sides. And it's you have to be on mental overload the entire time.
Yeah, it's actually my first guiding race. We went through, this is like 2 years ago, we went through all the things that generally can go wrong, which is a lot could go wrong. Like your shoes can come off your bike, like loads of stuff can go wrong. And we never discussed the tether coming off. And in my first guiding race, it was like on a rowing lake, and all these weeds came down. And we were going towards the weeds, and I was like, this doesn't look good. And there was so much you couldn't go around them, and the tether flew off, and I lost Alison. So I was like, my first race, I was like, I've lost my athlete. I was like, I'm going to get sacked straight away.
They're not going to keep me doing this. Step number 1, don't lose your athlete.
Yeah, I was like, oh God, okay, my athlete. And then I looked up after we found the tether and put it back on. I was like, okay, all the athletes must be about 300 meters away as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's so many things that you have to think about, and there's a lot of practice that goes into those things. But yeah, it's very, very rewarding when you get it right.
Now, did you win the first time you guys raced? Like, was that Milan?
Yeah.
When you won the first time?
Milan, where we lost the tether. That was.
Oh, you lost the tether, you still won.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
That was literally a month before Alison picked up what can only be described as a year of illnesses. So yeah, she had pretty much 2019 out. I guided Montreal, but she wasn't. It was like Montreal was like the first Paralympic qualification race, but she wasn't allowed to get her heart rate above 120. So for someone who's quite ill, literally just walking. So like we had quite a chill kick swim, and then I just literally blasted the bike, and then we kind of jogged the run. So yeah, it's and then in 2020 she came off a bike and kind of hairline fracture on her hand, which was ages to clear up, and then this year's had some challenges as well. So yes, it's like, woo, we got on the start line. We made it.
So your background, you were track and field and hockey growing up, and then you graduated from University of Birmingham with honors 2008 and fell in love with rowing. That was the first sport.
Yeah.
And you rowed for how long did you row?
So I learned how to row at university, kind of by accident. Like I was quite a big drinker back in the day, and there was like the sports hall, and I was trying to find athletics. And so I thought I'll just start and go around. And this strapping, handsome guy came up to me, and he goes, "You ever thought about rowing?" Because I was quite tall, and I was like, "No, like, don't really know what it is." Like, when I say a row, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's like kayaking." I'm like, "No, it's not kayaking." And that's kind of where I was at. And then, so I went to their kind of instruction, and I went to athletics thinking, I'll just stick to athletics. And we went out for the social and athletics, and we were back in bed by 10. I was like, oh, that's quite boring. And then we went to the rowing, did loads of training, and then partied all night. And I was like, yeah, I prefer the sport. So I literally, that's why I started rowing, because the social life was so good.
In 2009, you tested on Girls for Gold initiative to find future Olympians, and you were selected for Great Britain for rowing. But then stress fractures in your ribs?
Yeah,
is that what you got?
Rib stress fractures. Being a lightweight at summer weight was like 57 kilos, and it's just too light for me. So I just picked up injuries all the time. And then my friend was like, "Oh, I'm going to do this half Ironman." And I was like, "What is that?" And she was like, "Oh, you should come." And I was like, "Yeah, I literally can't swim, so probably not. And I don't own a bike, and I haven't run long distance for ages." But yeah, I went to it, and then that's kind of how I got into triathlon.
And did you win it?
No, I literally do not know how I won, because I came on the wall. Literally, I think I just made the cut off, because I was like going around like basically doggy paddling because I didn't want to put my head in the water. So much so my parents thought they'd missed me on swim exit and got buggered off. And I ran past them. I was like, "Where are you going?" They're like, "Oh my God, you're still swimming." So I was like literally last. And then I got on this bike that I quickly bought from eBay for 150 quid. Yes. I had trainers on. Yeah, I did. I had they had cleats on it, but I didn't have cleat shoes so I had it trainers and just kind of did it and loved it, and then just ran through the field and managed to win.
Managed to win the race. I love that.
Yeah. But I can remember I got onto the run and I shouted to my parents, "I'm so thirsty," because I didn't take any food or drink on the bike. Yeah. And it was quite a little local one, so they didn't really have any aid stations. And I got onto the run and I was like, "I am so thirsty." And they didn't have like aid stations on the run. I crossed the line. I was like, "Oh God, give me some fluid." So I didn't really know what was going on.
That sounds so similar to Chrissy Wellington. When Chrissy took her parents came to watch her do this race in London, and she'd been winning other stuff. And they're like, "Our daughter's going to be one of the favorites." And she jumped in and her wetsuit filled up and she had to be saved by her lifeguards. And her parents were like, "We thought you were good at this. What the heck? What's going on?" Yeah. So.
When my friends tried to teach me how to swim, they were like, "Oh, bring your wetsuit." And it was one of those, like those bodyboard wetsuits.
Yes, that's exactly it. Some big old thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and mine filled up as well. I was like, they were like, "That's not a wetsuit for swimming." And I was like, "Oh, I don't really know what I'm doing."
So then 2000, and you won the European Age Group Championships 2015, second overall in a 70.3 in 2014. So did you go pro in 15?
Yeah, I went pro. Like, I didn't really commit to it properly. I was still working. So I'd say my first proper pro year was 2016.
So where were you working? What was your job?
I worked a bit in sports PR with a company. And yeah, I did that. I'd say like it was part-time, but these things are never part-time. And I was like, I can't juggle both of this. So in 2016, I decided to stop and kind of gave my pro career the full gas mode.
So your first try was a 70.3. Was your second try the Ironman UK?
Yeah, it was, and I really would.
Your first try is not like I'm going to sprint, I'm going to Olympic. And I have no background, swim, bike, or run. And I got basically a rental, not a rental bike, but a piece of crap bike. I don't know how to swim. And I've got shoes I bought off of eBay or somewhere. And you go off and you do, you do a 70.3, and then you go, "Oh, well, I'll go do a full." And how'd you do in your first full?
Well, that was part of it. So when I did my first half, a friend was like, "Nikki, you can't go and do a full distance on like your road bike." And that was the worst thing I did. I did the perfect chopper. Do not copy this. And I got lent a TT bike, like the compression, like socks you pull all the way up. Because I thought that's what you do. I had a TT helmet. But I was so scared to go on the TT bars. I basically sat up the whole time. So you're sitting up and you've got this wind block with the big helmet sticking up in the air. Yeah, nice. Yeah. And because I thought, everyone has these socks on, I thought I should do that as well. And in T1, obviously couldn't get them on because I was soaked from the water and the swim. So it took 9 minutes to get them on.
Wait, it took you 9 minutes to get the socks on?
Yeah. It took me 9 minutes to get the socks on. Again, so much so my parents had left transition because they were like, well, we must have missed her. And yeah, it was just like an eventful, don't not train for an Ironman because it's painful.
That is so fun. So you look at it's funny because right before the world shut down in 2020, in 2019, you win 70.3. You win your first 70.3 win in 19, and then you win an Ironman Lanzarote. So you know, 2 huge wins, and then the world shuts down.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh my God, I've just started, people.
Exactly. And so then when I look at this last year, 2021, you were second at Ironman UK, and then third at Elton, and then was 140.6 in. I don't know what that is, but you were third there.
Spanish long distance champs.
That's a long distance. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it's a full Ironman, that one.
When did you feel that you actually could be, you could be good at this and potentially make a living at it?
Probably 2019.
2019 was it. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like I really was just starting. So like when people now are like, oh, you know, what will you do after sport? I'm like, guys, I'm just starting. You're
just starting. I'm looking. Well, you're brand new at this. You were rowing for really the first part of your career. And then this really, if you look at, 2018, 19 and 20 and 21, you're just getting going.
Yeah, I know. And I'm loving it. So yeah, like I couldn't be more far removed about thinking about retirement. I'm like, no way. I have to get up every day and do what I do. So there's no chance that's entering my mind.
So your first finish at Ironman World Championship, 2019, you get 23rd, right?
Yeah.
What did you learn from that? Because obviously that is the pinnacle of our sport.
Yeah, like it's a hard one. So I felt like I just kind of jogged around and kind of got the experience and didn't really race it. I don't mind humidity, but for a full distance, like it's pretty tough. Like for a half distance, that's fine. But I just loved it. Like, and it just makes me, as soon as I crossed the line, I was like, I can't wait to come back and actually fully, properly race this. So February, can't wait. And I really, really hope it happens in February. Because I've qualified February as well.
Well, by winning Ironman Lanzarote, I was in Lanzarote years ago, and that is by far the toughest full Ironman around. I mean, you've got, when you're climbing there, there's very few places where you're climbing into a headwind, but that place seems brutal everywhere you go. When you did Kona after doing that race, did you feel like, okay, it's not that this course is that hard. It's just, I always feel the thing that makes Kona so special is competition. There's 35 women there who are going, I'm going top 5, top 10.
Yeah, like that's everyone's target. And I'm guessing very similar to next weekend, that's everyone's target. So everyone's going for those spots. And, like when you're on the start line, it's like 10 to 15 females maximum. So when you're getting 35 to 50,
yes,
it's a whole different dynamic of racing. Like you coming out, I came out of the water with kind of like a pack of, there must have been about 15 of us. And that's a whole different dynamic because sometimes you come out of the water and there's 3.
Right,
so
exactly.
Yeah. So it's a whole different dynamic. I was like, and I didn't really do transition very well. And I kind of came out of the back of that pack and I was like, oh, do I just stay at the back? So otherwise I've got to go around 15 people. And obviously the first bit of the course at Kona is quite tight, that kind of out and back before you get on the highway. So yeah, you learn a lot from those experiences. And yeah, it's a race that, as soon as you finish, like, I cannot wait to come back. And it's just a race you want to be there every year. It's the pinnacle of the sport. It's what everyone talks about. If you're a long distance athlete, the first thing people ask is, have you been to Kona? So yes, everyone knows it. And it's beautiful. And yeah, it's a shame it got cancelled this year, but in my favour, it has been postponed because I wouldn't have probably gone to it in October with having the Paralympics and not fully being able to concentrate on it. But now I'm definitely going in February.
So you've got 70.3 Worlds next week in St. George, and you're in St. George right now. And people who have not been to St. George before take their first bike ride and are like, oh my God, this is like a postcard. This is unbelievable.
It literally is stunning. Like, so much so we want to come back and do like a full on holiday, or I'm now trying to persuade, because like we want to go away in some heat in January and February next year. And so I'm trying texting friends like, I think I found a good destination for heat camp next year. Yeah, it's stunning. And like, we've been on the bike course now, and this morning we went for a run and did kind of half the run course, of which we'll do the full loop tomorrow. And it's just gorgeous. Like, to the point where because Bex knows what I'd be like sometimes. I'm a bit like daydreaming, and I can be like, oh, look at the views. And I'm like, no, race. So if I soak in all the views now, and hopefully I won't be on the race like, oh, look at this, Snow Canyon, it's gorgeous. Without being like, no, I need to focus on the race.
And it's interesting because this will be very similar to that Kona experience where you might come out of the water with 25 other women. And it's half the distance, which means that people are going to be out of the saddle sprinting right from the start.
Yeah, definitely. And it's quite like, I know people will tell when I say this, but it's quite a flat course compared to what I'm used to. Not on the run, but on the bike, it's not that hilly. So we've got to use those hills as opportunities when they do come. Because hopefully that'll split up whatever packs there are and make it a true and honest fair race. And that's kind of what drew me to do this one, because I love the tough courses. I love races that, you know, if you're kind of front pack swimmer, you're fine. You're kind of in a pace line, then you get onto the run. But I like courses that just break it all up. It's honest. It's stunning. So like, that's a massive thing I love about triathlon. It just takes you to places you wouldn't have been to before. And we've been lucky enough to have the most amazing homestay, and they've been so welcoming and friendly, and the kind of like knowledge of the area. So they'll give us top tips on where to go after the race and kind of cycles to go pre-race, and so we can properly soak up the local area.
So was there one race that you did that made you realize that this is, you know, this is a sport that I really want to do well at?
Probably my first win at Ironman Lanzarote. It's pretty special, that one. I was just really super chilled before the race. I knew I did all the hard work. And I just, the race went perfectly for me, really. And had family on the finish line. And it was just absolutely amazing. And also Ironman Wales was my first pro Ironman in 2016. And that was phenomenal. Like, that is just, it was just goosebumps. I just basically, I wake up every day and I want to train, and I want to train to race. And I get out of bed thinking, oh God, I'll do this and this. I'm just like, jump out of bed. Like, the worst thing if someone said to me is, oh, you can't go and train today. And I'm like, oh my God, that's my worst nightmare. Don't tell me that.
You always want to train. Well, you know, so again, what's so cool is it's like you've been doing the sport for 5 years, right? You were such, I mean, a little longer, but in terms of a pro, you're so young in this sport. I'm sure every day is sort of a gift.
Oh, definitely. And like, say for instance, in Tokyo, when we actually got to Tokyo for the week, we were like completely hotel quarantined. I mean, we could see the venue 200 meters away from our hotel, but we couldn't walk there. We had to be escorted there by like police. And so you couldn't just get on your bike and go for a ride, and you couldn't just go and run. Like, so you were really limited. And that's what makes you realize how much you love it. Because like the day after the race, I had a hour ride, but obviously that had to be on the turbo. And someone's like, God, like, people are like, can't believe you're doing that. Like, how boring. And I was like, the worst thing is if someone said I couldn't do it and I didn't have a turbo to do it in, that's what I'd hate. But it's funny because we did our after party in the hotel. And so I just took the turbo outside and I was just doing turbo, had a few beers on the bike, and then joined properly. And after that.
So this is a celebration party because you know you got St. George coming up. So you've got to keep training.
Yeah, so I've got to keep training, but I was like, I could soak in the party a bit as well. And then, to be honest, I had quite a few beers that night. But it's fine.
Do you hear from any of your rowing buddies and going, you know, hey, what are you up to? Well, I'm a professional triathlete now. And they're like, wait, what? You?
Well, it's funny, actually, because when we were at there's a GB rowing lake in Caversham, and I can remember our coach found the famous crawl on YouTube, and she was like, God, can you imagine doing an Ironman? And I was like, no, could never imagine it. And it was literally the next year I did Bolton. So they're all like, and because like in athletics, I used to do like 400 and 800 meters, and I used to always skive like the 2-lap warm up. Our run was 20 minutes, and I'd always try and like not do it.
Right.
So like athletics athletics friends and my row friends were just like, but you just love short distance. Like, you hated all the long stuff, and it's like completely transformed.
Isn't that funny? So when you look at
love it.
that experience that you had at the Paralympics, is that something you want to keep doing that? You're going to try to balance in guiding as well as racing for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just got to wait and see if there's any kind of new talent coming through, because I need an athlete to race with.
Is Alison retiring?
I'm not sure. Not sure what her plans are. But obviously it's quite a short cycle. So like, so for instance, after next year, the qualification period starts for Paris. So it's like kind of like a year to find. So it might be just too soon to find anyone. But I'm unsure of Alison's plans. So I would love to be in Paris. So yeah, fingers crossed. If anyone's listening and you're a female VI athlete, get in touch.
From the UK.
from the UK.
You got to be from the UK. Can't have an American guide. Sorry.
No, I'd love to guide also at Kona. I'd love to do a guiding race there.
Well, we can connect you there. We totally can. Actually,
cool.
One of these years, we got to get you out to our San Diego Triathlon Challenge here in San Diego. We'll, 150.
That's isn't it?
It is 150 challenge athletes from all over the world will be there, and it's a pretty special weekend. It's really.
I'd love to be part. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, definitely. Can you imagine going on in Kona on the tandem?
Exactly. Brilliant. Imagine how fast you go there. You could fly on the tandem there.
Yes.
You get the right athlete.
Yeah.
Hey, Nikki, thank you so much for taking time, and I really appreciate you guiding, because I think the amount of credibility you bring to para sports when you get a world-class athlete saying, "Hey, this means the world to me to help somebody else reach their potential and fulfill their dream." That's a pretty, because our sport can be very selfish, right? Yeah. You swim, you bike, you run, but when you're giving back to somebody else, I think we all gain from that, right? We all gain positives from helping somebody else.
100%. It's an absolute honor to represent your country at a Paralympic Games. Like, it's like literally goosebumps. I've got my race kit and I was like, wow, this is super special. So yeah, it's an absolute honor to do it.
Yeah, and the cool part is a lot of times you go into a race and you're going there for the gold and you don't medal. But you guys finished fourth, and that was like a huge win, because just getting to the starting line was pretty damn special. You guys, with all the injuries and everything you're dealing with, getting to the starting line and being 2 seconds off of the podium was like taking a gold.
And that's what sport's all about for me. It's just doing the best you can on the day, and overcoming all the challenges you face. And it's often the stuff people never see. Like, no one will know, hardly anyone will know the story. They'll just see 2 seconds off bronze. I'm like, no, you have no idea. Like, this feels like just amazing to be on the start line. Like, yeah, it's properly amazing. And like, so for instance, the podium was all B1 athletes. So Alison's a B2. So B1 start 3 minutes and 48 seconds in front. Which
and they're totally blind.
Different.
They're totally blind.
They are totally blind athletes. So they start, pretty much 4 minutes ahead of us. And in a sprint, that's massive. So they will all B1. So we were catching the whole day.
Which is fun.
Yeah, which is great fun. Like, just literally just like a carrot. Go play, go chase down.
That's really cool. And I'm sure it's funny. I was reading. So Anouk from France was the woman who got third. And I think they were ready to just like wave to the crowd. And then they realized you guys were coming like a freight train, taking time out of them. And, the last thing they wanted to do was be sprinting at the end of that thing. But that's exactly what happened, because otherwise you guys would have taken the bronze.
Yeah, we were coming in fast on that home stretch. Like, we just needed a bit more time.
I love it. Nikki, thank you so much for taking time. Pleasure to get to meet you. Love what you bring to the table for the sport. And I look forward to hopefully meet you in St. George next week.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for having me on. It's a massive pleasure.
Nikki Bartlett has been our guest, everybody. Breakfast with Bob. Not quite Kona edition. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Catch you next time.